Hey guys, Tom Barclay here. Just come out of the press conference with Ange Postecoglou, previewing Arsenal ahead of the North London derby. First of all, probably an apology. I kind of got slightly wrong end of the stick at the start of the presser. I just misheard Ange slightly on Yves Bissouma. He was talking about players being all fine and then went on to Yves Bissouma and kind of took it at the time for some reason as him being out of the game. That may well be the case. My prediction was he probably won't be fit after picking up an injury in that Mali game on international duty, but that's not definitely the case. So we found a bit more detail about it. He's tweaked his groin. It's not serious. He's being assessed, and it sort of depends if he can train tomorrow or not, really, to see whether he makes the game or not. And if he's not fit for this one, it's likely that he'll be back, I guess, for Coventry or the next Premier League game. So yeah, apology on that for getting it slightly wrong. And you know how it goes on Spurs social media. The aggregators, who a lot of them are good guys, I know, sort of put it out there and it gets picked up. So I think one person called me a muppet. Probably fair enough off the back of that. Might as well stick with team news at the moment. So yeah, Bissouma, probably a doubt, major doubt I'd say at this point. Van de Ven has trained pretty much all throughout the international break after missing the Newcastle game. So you think he has a good chance. Solanke, it's quite interesting. He says he's been with the first team for half of the week and trained yesterday, I think he said. Or was it today? I'm just getting mixed up now. But he has trained and he should train tomorrow. And then, you know, he's got a good chance basically, but it's not sort of definitive on him. So we'll wait to see with Solanke. And then the players that are definitely out, Richarlison and Will Lancashire, the two strikers. So a lot of players to pick from for Tottenham, but you know, still issues there. The other topic going into this press conference beyond Arsenal and that rivalry was obviously Rodrigo Bentancur after he got charged by the FA, and technically, you know, he could actually receive a 6 to 12 game ban. We'll wait to see if it gets anywhere near that or what will happen. And he was asked about him, and he said that it was something they were sort of expecting, and Rodrigo is well aware of the sort of ramifications of what could happen, and it was basically a wait and see job. He was asked about how his relationship with Bentancur, that is with Son Heung-min, because obviously that was who he made the comments about, and I suppose it's unsurprising what Ange said, given we've seen most of it sort of play out on social media regarding regarding Son and Rodrigo. So he said that they've had a discussion about it. They understand each other's position. Rodrigo has apologised, which we know, and the Son's accepted that. And he talked again, a bit like with Bissouma a few weeks ago, with the nitrous oxide situation. He said this is a chance to atone and to learn from. So that's just one to watch, really. But that's what he spoke about in that particular subject. Moving on to Arsenal, he was asked whether he felt like the current squad was capable of challenging with Arsenal. And first of all, he said, you know, we don't just want to compete with Arsenal, we're competing with everyone. And he says he feels like they're in a good place to push on from last year. And performance-wise, he's been happy with what he's seen so far this season. Obviously, Spurs fans might, disagree about performances, but obviously they're frustrated by the two results away from home so far. But it does really feel, you know, this game can be, as I've said quite a few times, you know, in the lead up to this, a springboard to kicking on this season, or something that could make things turn sour. It does feel quite a pivotal match. It was interesting because obviously, whatever happens with Postecoglou, it feels like the situation involving Arsenal, or the rivalry with Arsenal, is going to be quite sort of pivotal to his story so far here, whether it be that first derby where they drew 2-2 and really impressed everyone, or from a negative point of view, the 3-0 was 3-2 in the end, wasn't it? But being 3-0 down by half time last time round, back end of last season, and that being part of that bad run towards the end of the season. But to be honest, probably the more fitting element of Arsenal shadow, or the spectre of Arsenal over his Tottenham tenure, came with the Man City game as we all know, towards the end of last season, where Spurs fans actively, or a lot of them did, not everybody, but a lot of them wanted them to lose the game to deny Arsenal winning the title. We know how Ange handled that, and perhaps a bit of a disconnect with some of the fans thinking that way, and how frustrated he was with that, and how he just felt like he just wanted to win, and he didn't quite understand why anyone would think any differently. Then sort of holding his hands up afterwards, thinking he got it wrong. But he was asked about that, and how that kind of whole episode really had how it impacted his feelings on this particular rivalry. I mean, remember, this is a man who's managed Celtic versus Rangers, so not unused to intense rivalries. But he kind of doubled down and just said, "Look, I just want to win games. I don't care," and that's how he'll never change, really. Which is probably not it's not surprising. It's just how he is, and understandably so, and because he's a professional sportsman, sports manager, and that's what they want to do. But it was interesting in a topic of Arsenal this week. In terms of anything else, really, he was asked about Djed Spence being left out of the Europa League squad, which feels like quite a long time ago now, given the international break and other things that have happened since. But it was quite a big talking point, I suppose, from Spurs fans. I'm wondering why Fraser Forster was in instead, and Spence was left out. He wasn't asked specifically about Forster, but just his thoughts on Spence. And he said it was a difficult decision, and it's tough to have made this. He actually made a joke about Ali Gold, my good friend, who obviously most of you will know, not being at the press conference. I think Ali's away this week, and saying like this was basically Ali's sort of special project, and made a joke about that. But on Spence, he did say that he's got a huge part to play this season, which must be quite encouraging from Djed's point of view. So unlucky to miss out, unfortunate, disappointing for him, but he should get more than enough game time. So if you're Djed Spence, I think you'd be pretty encouraged to hear that after what must be quite a disappointing outcome from that particular situation. And then just finally on Arsenal, really, who are obviously flying high generally in the last few years under Arteta. Arteta's obviously just signed a new contract. They are obviously without key players in Declan Rice, and we'll wait to see with Martin Odegaard. We think he's probably going to be out, but let's see. Ange just sort of reiterated the sort of path that they've been on, that Spurs are they're obviously a bit further ahead than Tottenham in their particular project, but there'll be a tough nut to crack, but they're ready for this game. Just finally talking about sort of way Spurs are going to line up, I suppose. I still think Bissouma will probably miss the game, despite not getting it slightly wrong about how definitive that is. So if he comes out, you'd think Rodrigo Bentancur, despite the situation he's faced this week of his own making, you would think that he'd probably be the one to go with in a game of this magnitude rather than Archie Gray. So, I mean, the back four picks itself, presuming Van de Ven is fit, which, based on Ange's comments, you'd be confident that he would be. So, Vicario, Porro, Romero, Van de Ven, Udogie. Obviously, Vicario had some issues in the last Arsenal game, particularly with Ben White, and trying to get his gloves off at corners and free kicks. So that's something that Vicario is going to have to deal with. And then I would think Bentancur, Sarr, Maddison, and then Solanke, based on what he's saying, you'd expect him to be involved, and you'd probably expect him to start, to be honest, given how much they sort of really lacked him against Newcastle. So I'd imagine Solanke, Son out left, and then a decision to be made between Kulusevski and Brennan Johnson in particular, albeit Odegaard has played the last couple of games. Johnson was very good against Newcastle off the bench, but Kulusevski was excellent apparently for Sweden, albeit in a number 10 role, so that'll be interesting to see if maybe he might play in that role, but you'd think it'd probably still be Maddison at this point. And I would probably tip Kulusevski to start, because Johnson at this stage has mainly shown himself to be an excellent impact sub. It's obviously up to him really to kick on and become a first choice starter on a regular basis. But there are options there for Ange that can cause Arsenal head problems. Arsenal obviously are an excellent team, defensively very solid. But if they are missing those key players, this really does feel like a big opportunity that Spurs really need to seize. and get this season up and running.